there's a Honda EV commercial. It's been out, I guess, for a while or a few months, but
yeah, not newsworthy.
It's soundtracked by Panda and Sonic Boom's Go
Edge
On.
I think it's Edge of the Edge.
Sorry. Edge of the Edge. Yeah, it's a real commercial.
But it's electronic. It's an EV, so.
You think they got a free EV out of it?
I sort of doubt it. Well, do you think they'd rather have a free EV or just the equivalent in cash?
Yeah, I'd probably just take the cash.
Equivalent value. I think EVs are cool. What's your take on the whole, like, EVs are to save the auto industry, not to save the planet kind of thing?
Yeah, I kind of agree. It's probably a scam, right? Like, I mean, instead of using fossil fuels and oil, you're now extracting lithium from the planet under the guise of like techno-capitalism or whatever.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not ideal. I guess it's like better, but it's like still, it's just like a new market for companies to mine, I guess. I don't know.
Right. I mean, I admit
that said, I do drive a Prius. Because I feel like it's illegal to not own a Prius in the state of California.
Well, then someone come arrest me because I'm guzzling that gas. I mean, I admit the main attraction to me is like not paying for gas anymore, which is always a pain in the ass.
Totally.
I know it's not like the ideal replacement, but also like, I don't know, a lot of the arguments I've seen against it are like, you know, we don't need electronic vehicles. We need more walkable cities. We need more like public transportation. And I'm like, all right, well, of course we do. But like,
yeah,
all of that will cause massive emissions as well. And like, I don't know.
Whatever, Noah, get your money.
Yeah, I mean, should we talk a little bit about that? I think definitely something that was hated on in previous like decades of indie music. Like, I feel like for a while that was a no-no. I remember Kurt Weill, you know that song Puppet to the Man?
Yeah.
I guess he wrote that in response to like he sold a song to like a Bank of America commercial, or you know, had a song synced in like a Bank of America commercial, got some hate for it, and then wrote Puppet to the Man in like response to that.
That's funny.
Which is interesting. And then I remember like there was a headline about like Beach House like turning down, you know, a Volkswagen commercial or something because they're like, we're not fucking sellouts, man. Like, but yeah, I don't know.
Animal Collective did the same thing. They turned down a Volkswagen commercial and a Pizza Hut commercial.
Oh, funny. What era was this? Do you know?
This is the height of Merriweather era.
Yeah.
Which, imagine an Animal Collective like pizza commercial. That would be fun. Like, just lean into the like the late night munchies, you know, angle and be like,
totally.
Did you just listen to Merriweather Post Pavilion? Are you really hungry right now?
Are you baked AF?
We've got something for you. The new Pizza Hut Supreme Cheese Pizza.
Double stuffed crust.
Made of all the trash in the world that no one wants in one perfect pizza pie.
Yeah, you're recycling.
I do love Pizza Hut, man. It's I actually ordered it like a couple weeks ago. I get these Pizza Hut cravings every now and again, and god damn, does every part of that product amazing. The cheese, the crust, the sauce.
I definitely think of the cheese as Pizza Hut being like the cheese goats.
Just thick slabbed on cheese.
I've not had Pizza Hut in forever. I mean, I have a lot of vivid memories as a kid of like going there, you know, in like the salad bar days and like the red cup days, you know, the red plastic cup, the like,
hell yeah, like
the stained glass like lampshades.
Yeah. I remember that too. Are there any Pizza Hut headquarters left, or like Pizza Hut sit down restaurants left? Like,
That would be such a smart like brand move for them. Like, I don't care if you have to like close 50 stores, but like choose one to just like really go old school on and make it like a dining experience, like a nostalgia blast experience.
Yeah.
Play the old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies like on TVs in there.
Yeah, just like it's like stepping into like 1993 or something.
Yeah. Do you feel, is there any part of you that feels weird about them having a song in a major car brand commercial? I mean, I feel like it just sort of reflects.
I really don't care because the music industry is so shitty right now. Right. Also, they've done it before. They were in Sweet Road was in a Crayola commercial like 15 years ago, maybe more.
Really? Sweet Road and Crayola. I mean, that's a match made in heaven.
No, it was perfect. Like it looked like Animal Collective like directed the video. It was like all colorful and fun.
The paper's white, but when you color on it, it turns all different colors. There's probably a lot of colors in there. The colors are inside here. Crayola color explosion.
Yeah, it's also like to like the beach house point. Like if you're like the way that industry sort of works is like if you're as beach house, if you're like approached to like, oh, can we use this song in the commercial, and you turn it down, there's gonna like find some dude in LA and give him your beach house song and be like, make a copy, make a rip off of this. He's in the commercial, and then that dude
I had a
will
roommate who he made music for shows and commercials, and he said that was a thing. Like, yeah, like copy this Bon Iver song, this Bon Iver song.
I need a Bon Iver copy stat.
Bonefish.
What's up, everyone? This is Bonefish, podcast about indie, electronic, experimental music, and the band Animal Collective. My name is Christian.
My name's Justin.
Dope episode in store today. We got to interview electronic artist Maral. She is an Animal Collective super fan. We sort of planned to talk about Strawberry Jam. We didn't dip too deeply into that sticky well. So we'll definitely have some more Strawberry Jam content coming soon so we can kind of get a little more deeply into that album. But still really, really cool conversation with her. She's a longtime fan, been to tons of shows, it sounds like. Every show we brought up, she was like, yep, been to that one, went to that one, went to that one.
Yeah.
And then, of course, last year, she got to tour with Panda Bear and Sonic Boom on the West Coast dates, and then also A.V. Terror when he was touring behind Sevens.
Yeah.
She's got a new song out this week called Hope's Return. That's really sick with a really cool sort of animation video. And a handful of records out. Leaving put out her last two, and then she's got like a string of singles. But really, really inspiring conversation. Really cool to kind of hear her perspective on her own music, which is like very different from Animal Collective's, but is very like sort of spiritually connected in these ways. She samples a lot of like Iranian folk, and it was cool to hear her kind of process behind that. But yeah, before we get into that, I just want to touch a little bit on Panda Bear. I think last year did an interview with this podcast Ion Pack. It was paywalled for a while, but it's now up on YouTube. It's pretty long, but I just watched the first like half of it, and it's pretty cool. He's very like, it's very different from, sort of classic Noah interviews from back in the day where maybe he's with the band and like says two words and is like pretty standoffish, but he's really talkative. He confirmed that Comfy and Nautica is a reference to the clothing brand, not like, I don't know, a maritime sort of reference, I guess, which I was always curious about. Also, interestingly, he had that title for like a really, really long time before the song. He just really, really liked that title. And then once he started writing the song sort of followed like the title, essentially. He kind of used the title as like an influence for like what that became.
Dope.
I haven't watched the second half yet, but but definitely plan to. It seems like a good interview. But yeah, so it's up on YouTube now. Anyone wants to check that out. And yeah, without further ado, let's get to Maral.
Nice.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Yeah, like I said, I think you're like one of the first artists we reach out to, so it's fun to finally get you on the pod. Big fan of your music.
Oh, thank you. You guys saw me live, right?
Oh yeah,
twice.
Oh, okay, cool.
For both the Animal Collective.
Okay, so Aviatarian Panda Bear with my visuals. Okay, good.
Yeah,
that's the right way to see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was on the Animal Collective forums for a really long time.
Collected animals.
What was your name?
Yeah, Bear Hug. So
Nice.
I had a couple names.
Yeah.
I was JWoww and Murrow. And I was always that guy who was like, I wouldn't really post, I would lurk, but I'd be like, hey, could somebody DM me this?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I didn't post too much, but I posted my music on there a lot. And
Nice.
always wanted people to listen to it, and I don't think people would listen to it every once in a while, but it was like when I was just only releasing on SoundCloud. So then it's like once the forums start talking about your music, you're like, yes, I made it. You know what I mean? Like that's like the goal.
Totally. So yeah, we're talking Strawberry Jam.
Yeah.
But first I'd love to just like talk about your music a little bit.
Okay.
When I listen to your music, I kind of feel like I'm in a video game and I'm like approaching the like final boss level.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not like fighting him yet, but I'm like, in the castle, like on my way.
I had a similar feeling.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm touring like a wasteland.
Yeah.
And I love it. Like
yeah.
Yeah.
It is a very journey type of music. You're moving.
Yeah. You kind of go from one room to like a new room.
Exactly.
And, like, it's very tight. So yeah, I'd love to talk about like sort of how you've arrived at your current soundscapes and palette and stuff. But maybe before that, can we just talk about like how you got into music and like where sort of you started on your journey of musical expression?
Yeah, I feel like I started as like a listener. I was just like really obsessed with music, and my parents weren't really into me doing music stuff. And I just feel like I had to kind of keep it on the down low, how much I loved music. You know what I mean? Like they knew I loved music, but I would just like download music from SoulSeek and just get really into different genres and get super obsessed with the history of music and just how a genre would grow. And then like the different genres that would grow from that initial one. And just like, following the growth of music through history and then what bands were associated with that growth. And just like, getting really obsessed with just how things change and grow and what sounds influence each other. And then I did play the sitar, which is an Iranian lute instrument. It's not the Indian sitar.
Right, yeah.
SETAR. And that was like my only way of like playing music where my parents were like down with it because it was my dad's best friend teaches that instrument. So I'd go and do lessons with him. And then at some point, I just like, I'm not such a great musically oriented person, but like, he was like, oh, you're natural. And I was like natural at it. But then at some point I just couldn't get further with it because there's music theory and just like remembering things. And I can't do music that way. So I kind of put it aside. And my friend gave me a cracked copy of Ableton. And then I started using that to DJ in college. And that's kind of how I started exploring music making through DJing and just DJing for my friends and DJing for like this cool music scene we had in college in Blacksburg. I went to Virginia Tech. So there's like it's such a bro school. So it's like a really hard place to have any sort of music scene or feel any sort of like camaraderie. But I had like a great group of friends. And then I also found like this other crew of music people like doing shows. This band called Wild Nothing.
Oh yeah.
Started there and they were called Face Paint and we'd all have like shows together. And then we would just have shows in people's houses. And
were you like DJing those or were you kind of?
I was DJing, but it was like very experimental. So I'd be,
okay.
When I DJ, it's like many channels and I'm using the volume knob as opposed to fading between just one or two, two channels or whatever. So it's like lot of loops, a lot of effects, a lot of mashing up sounds. And then through that, I started just like making little experimental songs using like Buddy Holly samples or Elvis or I don't know, Patsy Cline. Like for some reason, that was like what I decided to start sampling. And this is where I started getting really into Animal Collective and Burial and just like this type of sampling based music. And just realizing that there's stuff I can do, even if I can't really play a guitar super well or be in a band with someone, I can kind of just like do what I want to do through sampling. And then I also like worked with my friend in Virginia Tech and we made like this duo and we wanted to be Black Dice. And it's just like, you know, our version of what we wanted to like sound in that experimental way. So we explored that and he played drums and he sang a little bit and it was really cool. But we never like did anything with it. We just played live with our friends. And, and then I moved back home after college and just kept tinkering away with the sound, just showing my friends. And then I moved to LA and I just started sampling Iranian music. And I was like, oh, this could be really interesting. I just wanted to show people Iranian music. So I was like, this could be a way of showing people Iranian music.
Can you like tell me what Iranian or Persian music means to you? Because I really only kind of know about it through it in like an indie rock sense, to be honest. But what I've heard I really like, and I hear it kind of bubble up in your music. Like, tell me, like, what does it mean to you?
I do think people's understanding of it is more of like that funky psychedelic rock from like the 60s and 70s, which is like people's understanding of Middle Eastern music is through these like compilations that only highlight kind of the more guitar, psychedelic, Western oriented versions of the music. And that's cool. But when I was growing up, I was like listening to more like classical and folk music and then the pop stuff too. But I wasn't really exposed to that funky side. So it was just funny hearing those compilations and being like, oh, this is what people think of Iranian music. But to me, there's like this ancient repertoire with Iranian classical music that I'm obsessed with. And there's different melodic zones you can go to, different tunings. And then those melodies, everyone interprets them in different ways. So there's like many versions of the same melodic zone. So they're called dastgahs. Like it's like a whole thing. And I'm not like super well versed in it, but there's like different modal systems or something. So within these zones, within these different melodies, the players who play classical instruments, they interpret it in their own way and they go like beyond the notes. So it's like you might have the notes and you play within that zone, but you can explore different improvisations within that note structure, or like the beat is based on like poems. So it's like the rhythm of the poem ends up how you play the beat instead of like there being a set BPM or something like that. I don't know. So it's like a very loose form of working within a system of sounds. And I thought that was really cool. And just like the improvisation and people taking these things that everyone has and making it new through their interpretation of it. I thought that was really interesting. Kind of applies to DJing too. Like you're DJing with the same songs, but how you DJ them is what makes you special. Like the special part of doing it or whatever.
Yeah. Did you grow up with Iranian music, like playing in the home?
Yeah. I mean, I go to Iran every year for 3 months during the summer.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Like
and then
summer.
I lived there, 5th and 6th grade.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, 5th and 6th grade. I lived there too. And then, I'd go there every year. So big part of it. And then when I was in America, we only hung out with Iranian people. So it's just, you're very in the Iranian zone. But also at the same time, I felt very different from most Iranian kids and didn't have, like, my best friends weren't Iranian for the most part. So I was a part of it, but at the same time, not a part of it. But I was really interested in the history and just the poetry and just the nature, like the special aspects of being in Iran. I just really loved, but at the same time, it's a hard place to be in as like a weirdo. So it's so there's good and bad, but I think it obviously really influenced me, and just the texture of sounds when you're in Iran is really interesting and different than maybe being around in America or something. So I think that really influenced my music making, walking through Iran or always talk about how I want my music to sound like you're in a taxi in Iran with the windows down.
Ooh.
And the taxi driver is like playing this really lo-fi cassette that, you know, it's from like 10 years ago. So it's like warbling and like going in and out. And then like you're listening to your iPod with like electronic music in one ear. And then there's people like yelling and, you know, you're driving and you hear someone's conversation. And for a second, it all comes together and creates like a little song, and then it like disappears, you know?
I love that. So that is like, that's like your music, I feel like.
Yeah. It's just all about like the little sounds coming together to create something in a moment and then like going away. And like, and then that's what I'm obsessed about music, is just like those little sounds. And I feel like Animal Collective helped me appreciate that more because they have so many layers. Mm-hmm. And there was like this little section of this one part of the song that's just like, wow, this is really exciting. And
that's come together by chance. Or,
just through all the layering. And then you hear it in different times or different periods. So that's like was my big influence, was just those tiny sounds or the transitions in Animal Collective songs. Like when they would play live, like those transitions, I was like obsessed. Like intro, outro, transition. Like that's kind of my favorite part was the transitions.
Yeah, speaking of, we should just mention for those who haven't heard, for Dub Lab, you did that cool bootleg compilation of Animal Collective songs.
Yes. That was like so good.
It's great. I think you even 2 hours. It's like really long. And,
I mean, I had like almost a day's worth of Animal Collective.
I can tell you're a collected animals head. I think you played like it was like a Noah Josh duo in Japan. They played some songs in like 2004.
Yeah.
That I've always loved.
Yes. Yeah. That's one of my favorite bootlegs. Like that's a crazy bootleg. You know what I mean? Like again, they just happen to be those two. And then what comes from those two together. And that's what's so cool about the band is the different iterations and how it plays into like creating new sounds or whatever. So
definitely, if y'all haven't, check out Maral's mix. It's great.
Yeah, it's up on the internet on Dub Lab. I was stoked to hear Happy Singing Band. Love that one.
So good.
That's cool with the sitar, how you like started playing it, and then because now you sample it, right? Like you sort of.
And I don't really sample myself playing it. I just kind of started doing that recently, but I more just sample the masters because there's like these really beautiful old recordings, so they're like lo-fi and just like I'm interested in like jamming with my ancestors, so it's like kind of like jamming with these old masters who would probably never play with me, you know what I mean? Like they're all dead anyways, but like it's just like just kind of bringing again these melodies, this type of playing into the Western world and introducing people to an instrument like the sitar where most people don't know what it is. And then you can kind of...
Or probably assume it's the Indian, like, super twangy one, right?
Yeah, or like, a lot of time I'll affect it so people think it's like a guitar in the song or whatever. But in the end, I talk about my samples a lot. So I hope that leads to exploration. And that's with music like Animal Collective, I feel like I learned a lot about other types of music from just being a fan of them.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like from their samples to their influences. I want my music to be that for people as well, you know?
Yeah, the music's like such a circuit board to other things and sounds. What's like the weirdest thing you've sampled, or like the thing you're kind of most proud of, or like, ooh, wow, I surprised myself there?
I feel like I'm always surprising myself with my samples because I love, like, I'll take a little section and then I'll just mess around with it so much that it becomes its own instrument. So it's like, I might sample the human voice, like a vocal part in an Iranian classical singing, but then it ends up sounding like a guitar part, or I don't know, like, well, I did do this one thing that I was really into. I like MIDI-ified a song, like a rap song. God, what was it? I can't remember it now.
Talking about on your first record, or is this
on
something
Push? Else? It's like this one. I like MIDI-ified a rap song, and then the drum beat ended up becoming part of this song called Dashti at the very end. And it's like, it just became something that I had no idea could exist. And it was just like MIDI-ifying this like section of a rap song, and then adding like, I don't know, just like it was just so unknown that I was like, oh, I can't believe I can do this. And then that started a trend of MIDI-ifying drums samples, and then I would take them and make my own drum samples out of taking MIDI from like MIDIifying and like playing around or whatever.
Yeah.
So that kind of unlocked a new sound for me.
By MIDIifying, you mean like kind of taking samples and then like putting them on the piano roll, sort of?
Yeah, like in Ableton, you can just take a sample and you can just press convert to drums or convert to melody. So you can take something that's not an actual drum sample and convert it to drums, and then it comes out in a weird way, or convert a drum sample into a melody and then make that an instrument instead. So it's like a kind of fun way of just playing around with like what could be. That's cool. Yeah. So I like doing stuff like that, but yeah.
Did you always sample Iranian music, or when did that kind of come into your?
I started sampling Elvis and Patsy Cline and stuff like that, and then when I moved to LA, I got really into reggaeton and cumbia music because it's such a big part of the culture here. And then I was like combining reggaeton beats with Iranian music, and that was like because I was DJing a lot, so I was like doing a lot of DJ sets where I play kind of reggaeton or moombahton beats, but then I would like get really noisy on top. And I realized that I could do whatever I wanted on top of a fat beat, like a beat that really hits. Then you can do whatever, and people continue dancing, and it doesn't matter if you're playing like noise music on top of a beat in a club. Like people are down. So started experimenting with that, and I was like, oh, let me just play Iranian music on top of these fat beats, and then I made this mix called Voices from the Land of Iran, where I just did that. I just combined like Jersey club beats, trap beats, like all different types of beats with Iranian classical folk music, like really raw folk music from different regions of Iran. So that was like my way of like showing people folk music from different regions of Iran, but then just like combining it with beats and doing stuff like that. And I sent that mix to AV Tear through Instagram DM, and that's when we first started talking, and he was interested in it, and I got to open DJ set for them when they were in LA, like an after party for one of their shows or whatever.
Was it downtown LA by any chance?
It was like somewhere near downtown LA. It was like,
because I know I went to one of their.
It wasn't that one, I don't think, but it was like somewhere called The Lyric, which I don't think exists anymore.
Oh yeah,
I don't even know where it is. Like it was just like more East LA than downtown, but It was cool. And yeah, I just feel like that making that mix is what also helped me get to go to Red Bull Music Academy Base Camp, which is like this cool program where you go make music with a bunch of other experimental artists and producers. We went to Bonnaroo, and for 5 days, they have this special camp within Bonnaroo where there's music studios. There's like 3 music studios. And then you're also like have this big area where you play music for each other and with an insane sound system. And they have guest lecturers come.
Oh, nice.
And then you also play Bonnaroo. And it's like this insane thing. It was like the last year they did it and then got dissolved. But that was like a great resource for underground experimental music. And that's where I met a lot of cool producers who were like, oh, you should like make your own beats. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess I could just make my own beats. And then I like started making my own beats, and then that's how I made Mahur Club. Just everyone was like, you're a producer, like you can do it. And I just felt like I didn't belong, but then they made me feel like I could belong. And,
sort of that like permission you feel like you need for
yeah,
some
exactly.
reason.
And just having a community of weirdos. When you're in LA, you're kind of surrounded by such mainstream vibes unless you find the zone. Mm-hmm. And I had just been in LA for a couple of years, so I hadn't found the perfect zone yet.
Did you go to Low End Theory at all? Were you a Low End Theory
I went
person?
like once or twice, and I got to meet Code 9 once because of that. And then, last year I got to open for him, but I didn't get to go too much because I lived on the west side. So it was really hard for me to do anything. And I was in a crazy bubble, but I had my friends, so it was cool. But I was just, again, by myself, just kind of like fine-tuning this sound that ended up becoming my Mahur Club. So, and then I'm happy. And then I would just DJ raves and clubs and have my own club night with Annapurna Kumar, who does my visuals. So she's my friend since high school. So we've been like best friends. And growing together. And yeah, we had our little club night and invite DJs and people to play. And that really helped me find different people in the scene to feel good about and meet people. Because I literally moved here not knowing anyone except for my friends. Like I moved here with like 10 of my friends. 10 to 15. Yeah.
That's awesome though.
No, we had like a great little bubble, but we were in Venice. So it's just like, I don't know, Venice is such a culturally deficient place. You know what I mean? Like it's beautiful.
Especially
but,
recently in the last like 10 years.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You nailed it. Yep.
Yeah. So it was really like, it was fun in that we all had each other and we could go to the beach and stuff. And in the end, it was great because I just fine-tuned my sound and didn't feel the pressure. But then I did find great people who ended up supporting me, like Dub Lab, Disco Stand, this amazing collective who put on these parties that are like MENA oriented. So like Middle East, South Africa, Northern Africa and India area. So it's like that sort of place where you could play that type of music and explore. And then there was like and it was queer and it was just like really cool. And then, different scenes. And then releasing with this record label, Astral Plane Recordings, which was a cool label in LA. And then now they don't exist anymore, but that really helped. You know, literally before that, I just had my music on SoundCloud and just my friends would listen or something. You know what I mean? Or just like whoever I sent it to. And then that mix got on Pitchfork, and then it just kind of like blossomed from that or whatever.
And how'd you hook up with Leaving?
So Leaving hit me up after I put out Mahu Club, and they were like, if you ever want to do something, let me know. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to make an album that would fit Leaving Records a little bit better than like my more club-oriented stuff. So then I made Push during the pandemic, and then I was like, okay, I got an album. Do you want to release it? Like, I feel like, I don't know if they were like really expecting me to like take the offer up, but they were down and we released Push and it was really fun to do that. And then we did the last album together too. So it was cool. And then I like that scene a lot because I'm an outsider in that zone basically because my music is so different than what's usually released on there. But because they're all genre and they are open to everything. It feels great to kind of release on a label like that. And just that community is really cool. So in the end, even though I'm different, I feel like I can vibe in that zone. And
it's a big tent.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the island of misfit toys a little bit.
Yeah.
Even if,
Exactly. And it opened up a whole new sound for me where I felt like I wanted to be more like in a band with my samples as opposed to being in the club with my samples. So it's like it shifted me to be more band oriented with my sound.
Yeah. And what is that exactly? Is it just a little bit less like 4 on the floor style or kind of like
like I'm the drummer and then the samples are like there's a vocalist, there's like a guitar player, and then it's like it's just trying to make it sound like you're like, what would this Iranian sample sound like in a punk band? Or what would this Iranian sample sound like in a more like, I don't know. My drums changed basically where I started using live drums. And
I wanted to ask about that. I feel like that's like a really characteristic part of your sound is like this very live drum, but it's a definite blend of like live drum sound with like sampled sort of feeling, or I guess electronic treatment. Yeah. To like this live drum sound. Can you talk about like how you got there sort of? Or?
Yeah, I think again it was like this feeling of wanting to make band music by myself and just like wanting to exist in a space that was beyond what I was technically capable of. I can't really play drums or anything like that, so it's like I just thought it'd be fun to make my version of a band because I've never been able to be in a band, and I was like, oh, okay, let me try what this would feel like. And I just love that type of music. I mean, I love electronic music and I'm a DJ and I live in that world, but I also grew up with punk music and Animal Collective and stuff like that. So it was just more of like, what would it sound like if I made music like this? And I love a nice dry snare. I'm just obsessed with a nice dry snare. So I was like, I just want to make music like this. And it's just like kind of what came out. But I think it came from like this feeling of like, I want to be in the band zone and I just want to be seen as something beyond a DJ or something. But it's just, again, it was just more sounds and just what these samples were requesting.
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
yeah.
Does most stuff kind of start in the box for you, or are you sampling kind of like anything like external? Like I know in your press photos, you're kind of like surrounded by all this cool shit.
Yeah. Sometimes that stuff just represents what the music I want to sound like. But I have been playing the guitar more, like on that track, Sitar Rock.
Yeah,
I just played a really dry guitar on there, and like my whole goal for that track was just to not use as many effects. I was gonna, like, the first part is so dry, like everything doesn't have effects on it, and I just feel like, you know, I rely on effects a lot. That's my instrument, is effects, basically. That's how I create what I create, is through effects. So I was like, let's try to do something different. But then in the end, as the track progressed, it just got more affected and crazier, and you know, and I appreciated that. But yeah, I've been playing guitar a lot more, like on this next track that I'm releasing this week, Hope's Return. Like the whole thing is basically guitar and that I play, and then this Persian ney sample. So Persian ney is like a type of flute. So it's like a flute instrument. So yeah, that's like it. It's like just three things: my guitar, the Persian ney, and drums. And I'm just trying to get a little bit more stripped back about things or whatever.
Really sick song and really cool video. Did Anna Perna do that one?
So that one is one of our friends, Dansky Tang. They're another amazing animator in this group of friends that Anna Perna has, that she made when she went to Cal Arts grad school for like masters in experimental animation. And like literally everyone she graduated with, a part of her crew, are amazing animators. So it's like, that's a big part of my life, is just going to animation screenings, just hanging out with these like really talented and you know, out there people where they think about things in different ways, and they love music. So it's been really fun exchanging music with them, going to shows. Like they'll come to my shows, I'll go to their animation screenings, and it's been a really influential thing for me. To just find people who are down to get deep about things beyond music people, because music people can be different sometimes, or like there's like a
that cross
zone
media
to music that is not as intentional or pure, when I feel like animation is just pure, just like art, and it isn't constrained by these like elements of entertainment or I don't know, having to show yourself off or clout, you know, like there's like so many weird zones in music.
The artist seems much more like separate from the art in a way.
Exactly.
Than music. That's interesting.
Yeah. So I love that. So Dansky made this music video.
It's really cool. And I love the old school kind of animation vibe of it.
True. Yeah.
It's antidote to the AIification.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. That really bums me out.
Oh dude. Yeah. It sucks.
But yeah, Anna still does my live visuals, and
cool.
I still work with her a lot. She does all my t-shirts and stuff like that. Cool. So
nice.
You know, I'll continue working with her, but I thought I'd give her a little break and work with someone else for a little change.
Get into like Animal Collective a little bit. How did you first become a fan? How did you come across their music?
So yeah, I feel like it's funny. We growing up in Virginia. Again, you don't really have many places to hang out or do things. It's like you're just like hanging out in the woods, or just, I don't know, just figuring out what to do. And then we had this one friend, her dad was really into music, and he was a Vietnamese immigrant that worked like at NASA or something, and he was just like really into music and would have us over and like create a fire pit, and like we'd smoke hookah, and then he'd just play us music albums. And then he had this computer upstairs that you could go burned CDs from his like music collection that he like had like an insane music collection. And he would take us to concerts all the time.
Damn.
Because this is when we were like 16, 17. So we didn't really have rides or stuff to shows. So yeah, he would always help us find new music. And he was like who introduced us to Animal Collective. He gave me the CD Feels first, and I wasn't really into it. And then I got the CD Strawberry Jam, and then like it was just like it clicked and it was amazing. And then my whole group of friends were like obsessed with Animal Collective, and like we were just like going to every show we could go to, and just like it was just a thing that everyone was into at the same time. So it was just like a really fun thing to share together. And it was just so wild and so crazy. And it was during a time period where we were wild and crazy and just like blasting it in the car and just like, going to shows, like driving to New York, going to Bonnaroo, like all these different places to not just to see them, but it was like we had the energy to really dedicate to a band, and that was the band we dedicated. Like once, we were really into Radiohead first, and then Animal Collective came, and then the whole thing was like Animal Collective is better than Radiohead. I don't know. Like, it was like funny statements to make, but totally. So we were really just into music, like really deeply into music and going to shows. But
that's funny. I've never heard a dad turning somebody on to Animal Collective.
Right?
Like maybe now, but like back then, like, that's amazing.
It was insane. We're so lucky to have had him in our lives. His name is Van. He's amazing. So, he's is so proud of me now, you know what I mean? Sick. Like it's just like shout out every time anything happens, I'll like text him and be like, I talked to Fever Ray, or I got to open for Panda Bear. He hasn't seen my live set yet, but hopefully soon.
Nice. Yeah. Have you been able to get over there to East Coast at all for shows? Or
I've been asked to. I don't really like leaving LA, so I have to like prepare myself. But I've been asked to play in New York a couple of times. I played in Philly for this amazing festival called Making Time, and he came to that. But it was like a DJ set, but I still it was an experimental DJ set and stuff. So
nice.
Yeah.
What was your first Animal Collective related live show?
Oh yeah, this is amazing. This was we went to New York for All Points West, and like we didn't have a place to stay or anywhere. Like we just drove for the festival, got there like in the middle of the night the day
Jersey,
before.
Right?
It was like in New York City, but like you have to take something, and we just like took a nap in Central Park for some reason, like insane shit. Like I can't believe we did that. And then we went to the festival, and it was like, Animal Collective played. I think Radiohead played, like a bunch of different bands. But like when Animal Collective played, I'd only heard Strawberry Jam, and they played only stuff. I've heard Strawberry Jam and Person Pitch, but they would only play stuff from like Maral, the Post Pavilion hadn't come out.
Right.
So for me, I thought they just played 3 songs, like two really long songs, and then with Comfy Nautica in the middle. So I was like, wow, this is so crazy. They played like 2 really long songs and then Comfy Nautica. And I was like, this is so cool. Like, because, they transition. So it's just like, I hadn't really seen a band transition like that. So to me, it just felt like, they were all like one song. Mm-hmm. And they ended up playing, like Summertime Clothes, I think Lying in a Coma, a bunch of songs from Maral, the Post Pavilion. And I was just like, this is insane. You know what I mean? Like, and then I just got addicted and went to as many shows as I could,
Nice. So you've seen them a bunch.
Oh, an insane amount of time. Like,
every show I mentioned, you were at that show.
Yeah.
Even the DJ sets, like.
It's like if there was a show on the East Coast that was in New York or in Virginia, like I skipped one of my bio finals to go see them play, and I failed the class, but it ended up being fine. You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's one of the I was like a soccer player in high school, and I ended up quitting my senior year because like I kept missing all these amazing shows. I mean, I lived in Arkansas, so we had to drive like a while. But all my like music friends kept like driving around. We were all like super into music and shows too, and I just kept like missing all these things. I was like, man, fuck this. That's why I quit. But that's tight. Do you this is hard, so maybe not your ultimate favorite, but does one show stand out as like a most memorable one, or like a?
Yeah, I feel like I guess the Maral, the Post Pavilion shows were really cool. I feel like there's one where it was like in New York where they just had put out Merriweather Post Pavilion. Like it was in January.
The Bowery. There's
Shows. Exactly that one. That one was really cool.
I listen to that bootleg a lot.
That's exactly. But I just have different versions of certain songs that I really like from a show that maybe I haven't even been to.
Yeah.
But like I just loved any version of Guy's Eyes. I thought they really went hard on that one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Daily Routine too. Like those two songs, like I was just like obsessed with seeing the different versions of it or whatever. But I don't know. I feel like there's so many good ones. I loved their Bonnaroo set one year, but then I asked Noah about it, and he was like, "I hate." It was like that was a hard show. You know what I mean? Because it was like daytime and.
Was that the one that might have been the one the first time you saw?
My first show was Bonnaroo 09. It was like daytime.
Yeah, that's the one. I liked that one a lot, but it was because I had Battles had played that year. That
were you at that show?
Yeah, I was at that show, but like
same.
Every show that I had seen at Bonnaroo for some reason made me feel like Battles. Like Battles was the first show I'd seen at that festival. Like it was like Battles on Thursday night or something, and then every other show had like it made me feel like Battles a little bit, and I was like, this is like Animal Collective's Battles version of whatever. But it wasn't like that. It was just I was on drugs, But yeah, I feel like. Every show is really good, but Merriweather Post Pavilion time period is my favorite, where it's like the trio and just obsessed with how they were doing things because it had such an electronic vibe to it.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite time period. But it's
all coming from being a Strawberry Jam super fan into Merriweather, you were just like,
I was living life. Yeah. I was eating. It was really good time period.
We both became fans sort of post Merriweather, or I guess like when Merriweather came out. Had sort of a similar thing where I had like one friend in high school who I think had played me some stuff. I think some like Person Pitch and Feels, and it was just a little bit like it wasn't quite clicking yet for me. I was really into like British guitar bands like Block Party and stuff. And then for Merriweather it was like that clicking moment. Got so obsessed with that album. But then going back, it was like I didn't love Strawberry Jam at first. Like it was Merriweather is so, I guess it's so much smoother listen than Strawberry Jam than like, I think going, like the screamy stuff and whatnot, like I sort of associated with like Screamo, like, in the middle of Arkansas where the only music that like kids were doing was like really like emo Screamo stuff. So I kind of like bristled at that a little bit, I guess. I mean, like stuff like Sung Tongs was like a lot easier to get into. I mean, now I love Strawberry Jam. It's incredible, but it's just interesting, I guess, where you enter fandom and kind of how that like affects.
It's got like the best AV screams, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, Strawberry Jam.
Yeah.
And
it's incredible.
Technically, I was like, when I was driving here, I was like, oh, Dance Manatee is probably like my favorite Animal Collective album. But
no way.
I feel like Strawberry Jam is the one I listen to the most, or has that really significant moment for me. But for me, Strawberry Jam helped me unlock to go deeper into their later catalog. And then Maral the Post Pavilion I thought was too polished in terms of its production. Like I was really upset when I heard the album because I had heard the demos for so long, and I was just like, shit. Like there's like Maral, like Strawberry Jam was the last album that I felt like the mixing was really cool and interesting, and after that I felt like everything has been mixed weirdly in a way that takes away from everything, all the sounds meshing together well. Like they got to do it so professionally, and this is what happens to a lot of bands, that now everything is so clear, which is amazing in its own way. But then you don't get that sense of like wonder that came with Strawberry Jam, where it's like you're listening to it and then a year later you hear something new. Wow, I feel like with the newer records, everything is mixed so perfectly, which, they're right to do.
Yeah.
But the older stuff, I feel more like there's like a wonderment or awe to it where you're like, what is going on,
I always wondered if I would have perceived Merriweather as an album differently if I had was groomed by the live stuff first.
Yeah, of course.
Because when I heard Merriweather, I was like, yes.
I mean, I love it, the production as well.
That was my only reference point was hearing the studio versions.
Yes.
But
And that happened to both of us a little bit with Centipede, where like
now, like I love Centipede live stuff.
We went to
better
live
than
shows.
Yeah,
we
oh my
heard
God.
all that live for the first
Yeah.
time. Holy shit! And then it creates this expectation for the music. It's interesting you talk about that with Strawberry Jam though, because like, you know,
it's so well recorded. It's also like very crisp and clean.
It's very crisp, but it's more gushy. You know what I mean? Like it's more. It is futuristic and sharp, but there's still a feeling of gushiness and like things just meshing together more. While with Merriweather, it's like everything has its own place in the mix, which is like beautiful. That's a perfect mix. It's like every sound has its own zone within the mix. But with Strawberry, I feel like there's still something hidden in there.
Yeah.
You're kind of having to like...
Well, according to them, too, they really labored over the Strawberry Jam recordings. It was like pretty tough. And then Merriweather, by comparison, was so easy. They were like... Yes, but it's curious sort of to think about how that affects. I mean, especially, you know, it makes you wonder, like, maybe that labor and intensity was worth it. Or maybe it just was sort of a, you know, maybe it's something that can only be created by this super DIY band signing to Domino and having like a budget and like time to really figure stuff out.
Yep.
Like, could you ever create that again, sort of thing?
It's crazy. They like started playing Strawberry Jam songs like 2 years before the album came out.
Yeah.
Like they started touring like I think a month after Feels came out. Like they started just playing Strawberry Jam.
They probably
stuff.
had their own feelings of like demo-itis or like live version-itis. Like,
I mean, the songs were so different. That live version of Reverend Green that I have in the mix that's like really fast and punky. I was like obsessed with that. Yeah. It's really good.
I think Josh talked about like how he was surprised how like the songs changed in the studio. But I think we had like a listener ask if you know the song Safer from Strawberry Jam era. Would you put that on the album or would you keep it off?
Well,
that's one of my favorite Animal Collective songs ever, I think.
It's an amazing song. It is interesting that they left it off too, because again, I didn't experience this, but from what I understand, it did sort of have like a live reputation. Like they performed it a bunch, and then it's like exclusion upset some people. But yeah, on the one hand, it's like, well, where would you put that on the album? Like Strawberry Jam feels like such a
it's almost like the What Would I Want Sky Merriweather issue. Like there's no place to put it, maybe.
But at the same time, it's like not including that song, I think sort of like started sort of this new era of that band where they, you know, foregoed maybe the longer kind of like
more
slowly developing
version.
things to let's keep the concise.
I think if you're releasing on a record label like Domino and doing something in a more I'm going to use the word professional, but whatever way, it is interesting thinking about how you release and how you do a track listing. Like I think it's so important, and sometimes you gotta forego things that you would really enjoy, or even your diehard fans would, to just get like that concise feeling in a record, so then you can grow your fan base. I don't like Safer for some reason.
You don't? I don't like Cuckoo Cuckoo.
I don't
like those could be swapped out.
Yeah.
And then if you put Water Curses, I'm gonna get real nerdy. And then if you put Water Curses instead of Winter Wonderland, you'd have like a 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Winter Wonderland's a weird one.
But the flow might not be like really great. I don't know. Like, like what were they thinking about when they were making the track listing? Were they thinking about vinyl? Were they, I don't know.
Interesting.
But that's my little Strawberry Jam edit.
I mean, I love the Water Curses EP.
Yeah, it's so good.
So good. That's like just a companion. But like a song like From a Beach. Like that one was like
deep cut.
The song that I wish they recorded live. Like, you know, I was really sad that never made it, you know, and it's like a song from that era, I think. Or I never saw that song live, but I just from the bootlegs became obsessed with it. Or what was that song, Grace? It used to be called Grace. Like they recorded that, and then they put it out on the What Would You Want Sky EP, or All Be Kind. Yeah. And that was like really exciting, where I was like, this song got saved. You know what I mean? But there are like there are songs where like, you just have a bootleg of it and you're just so like wondering what it could have been. But I think they do a pretty good job of still releasing a lot of like deep cuts. And I don't know, I really wish they would release their bootlegs in a more like, even like the 930 Club bootleg that they released wasn't even the best show of that era, I feel like, or whatever.
And like the ballet slippers, the Merriweather live,
I feel like those weren't the best. Like I could do better. Like let me get in there.
And I talked to Dave about this. I interviewed him one time, and he said, I don't think until after Merriweather they started recording like professionally their live shows.
Yes, true. Yeah.
So they were very picky about what they would put out, and but I hear you.
Yeah, I mean, their concept of their music is different than what we experience, you know? So we can't dictate how they do it or whatever, but it's funny. Yeah, as a fan having these feelings, and as an artist, you're going to just feel differently about it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of get the feeling they might feel differently within the band about that kind of stuff. Like when we spoke to Dave last year before the show, it was Sevens had just come out, but the interview was about Spirit. And sort of asked him like, are there any other plans for like, you know, these anniversaries coming up? Like, and he was like, I mean, we got a lot of stuff. I think he said something to the effect that like it's really tricky to like hit the date because of like vinyl manufacturing and stuff right now. But do you have a favorite track or something you want to go deep on?
Oh yeah. My favorite track is Chores. I just obsessed with that track, and you know, hearing them play it live recently, when they played at the Greek Theater. They played like that punky version. I just love Panda Bear's punky voice. I'm like, I could do a whole podcast on Panda Bear's like live vocals, because definitely, you know, during the Person Pitch Strawberry Jam time period, I loved his little mumblings. Like I feel like he did all those like really cute like little mumbling things, and just like kind of like his little punk voice that he does live is really cool. And so different from what the recordings end up being. So like, I really like,
we could do that for a Patreon episode.
Right. Yeah. I could make a whole like live radio show about that. But, you know, I just feel like, Chores is just like the perfect song. And I love For Reverend Green, like Panda song, Chores, nice. A.B. Terror song for Reverend Green. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. I love Chores. Got the iconic stoner line. So good.
I remember I played that song for my friend once who wasn't an Animal Collective fan, and she was like, "Oh, your CD's skipping."
I've gotten that response a lot. Like, this is like backwards. Like, Chores rules.
I think they ended that Greek Theater show with Forever and Green.
I think they did play it there, and they played it at Desert Days in 2019 when they played. That was the first time I'd ever seen it. Yeah, I'd seen it live, and that's where I got to meet Panda Bear for the first time.
Nice.
And I hung out with Dave and Geologist a little bit, Brian a little bit backstage, but that was my first Panda Bear meeting, and I just told him how much his music influenced me, because Person Pitch is like the album where it's like that made me realize you can sample anything and you can make And we're like, I was thinking about it, like Animal Collective is able to do anything they want with music because they have these beautiful melodic lines and like, catchy hooks and stuff. And I was like, my version of that is a fat beat. Yeah. And then I can kind of be weird on top of a fat
like
beat.
The skeleton key.
Exactly. Of pushing the boundaries of sound and what a song can be. And, Person Pitch is like a great example of that, where it's like beautiful, catchy melodies and hooks, but then insane shit is going down.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked to, was it Mark who said this or Larry? I think it was Larry Fitzmaurice.
He's an awesome music writer.
He's great. Yeah. Huge Animal Collective fan, but he talks about Person Pitch as sort of the moment a generation of like indie musicians like sold their guitars and bought like Roland samplers.
Yeah.
And like
I literally got an SV404 because of that.
Me too.
Yeah.
I did a performance in college where I like sung Comfy and Nautica.
Oh, cool.
It's like the Velvet Underground when their first record came out, everyone started a band.
Yes, yeah.
That's the same thing with
That's
Person
so
Pitch.
true.
What was it like watching them play music from night to night?
When I got to play live with them.
When you were touring with them, yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, again, I would have been at all those shows if I was just not playing. So it was just like such a sweet thing to not only get to just see them play, but also get to play the show as well and play for the Animal Collective fans. Like that was like the best part, was like playing for Animal Collective fans, and they really got the music. You know what I mean? Like totally, it was like
seemed like there was good response.
Insane. Yeah, it was like my favorite shows I've ever played because everyone was just like, they're getting it and they're really tuned in, and I just felt like it was just exciting to play in that sort of zone with like the type of fandom they have. The people are there to actually like listen to music. And I feel like when I played in Seattle, the funniest thing was when the Seattle paper or whatever, this music writer did a review of the show, and he was like, Panda Bear and Sonic Boom were like amazing, but Maral still stole the show. And I was just like, holy shit. I mean, I was like, this is blasphemous a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed the crowd in LA was like, there was like a lot of people watching you. Like it was cool.
Yeah, it was great. And, again, after getting to play a show and then you're just seeing your favorite band play afterwards, it was amazing. And I love going to double shows, like I'll go see them back to back just to see how it alternates. And I got to see Bros at the LA show, and then I don't think he ended up playing it again at the other shows I played with him. So it was really cool.
Did they ever come off stage and like, damn, I messed up that part, I didn't like that part?
He just kills it. I mean, it's like
they're
insane. Like
pros.
I mean, seeing I feel like Panda Bear is at his like peak vocal situation where he's just like godly in it, and just like it's so effortless. And he's just like literally the chillest dude ever, and just like unfazed by it. You know what I mean? Like unfazed by like the heavenly shit he just brought down upon it. And just like it was really complimentary about my music. And I went to Seattle to play the show, and I don't like traveling, and he like really was like my coach. He was like, you can do this. Like,
really?
Look, this was great. Like, you can keep doing this. Like, I know you have problems. Dave used to have problems with traveling. Like,
is it like flying for you or just traveling?
I just get really nauseous on planes, and I'm just a sickly person. Like, like everything takes a lot of effort for me. So doing things, I wouldn't be able to go on like a full on tour where I'm playing a show every night. Both Panda Bear and Dave were so nice to let me just play a couple of shows, because usually booking agents don't like it when a band just opens for a couple of shows. They want you to do the full like 2-week tour or whatever. But I was like, I can't physically do that. But just like how supportive Noah was, and just like being like, it's okay that you can't go too hard. You do it your way, but like, look, you can also do it. It's like chill. It's fine. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's fine. I mean, Seattle's a 2.5-hour flight, so it's okay. But like, going all the way to the East Coast is hard. I always like get really sick. So it's just like, So I feel like they were both, Dave was really kind and just really supportive, and just to have them be so excited and like interested in the music too was really fun to just talk to them about my music and then I try not to fangirl too much. So, you know what I mean? Like I had to really rein that in, but you know, it's still fun.
Yeah. I was just saying, we did like a fan, like mailbag episode for our listeners recently. And we had people, some of them called in and talked about like their experiences meeting them and stuff. And I interviewed Noah for, I used to work on the show Song Exploder.
I love that series.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. And, I was saying like, yeah, like we got to chat and stuff a little bit after we like talked about soccer, but I like definitely erred on the side of like, oh yeah, like what's up, man? Like,
yeah,
just, like,
exactly.
Did not, sort of to the extent where after I was like, it would have been maybe cool to like say a little bit more about like my experience with them. But yeah, it was, I mean, you said so much already, but, how was it like going from, a fan to like opening for them? Was there a feeling of like,
I think that was like my ultimate goal for music was just to, I just like the idea of being, having respect or being acknowledged in a way, because for so long I felt like I felt like an outsider. So I just felt like, where do I belong? And then listening to Animal Collective, I was like, oh, okay, this could be a place where I could belong. So I just was like, I just want to find a feeling of belonging. And then getting to do all this stuff, I finally feel like, some sort of like belonging. Again, I was making the music for myself, but then just having it hit in this way, I was like, oh, I just like doing things intentionally. So it's like, if I'm going to do something, I want it to be intentional and like part of like this like goals that I have or belief system. And it's just about exchanging sounds in a way that helps each other grow. I don't know. I just like having them acknowledge it and be into it made me realize that like, oh, okay, there is place for my music. And just because I'm not in a band or I can't play instruments doesn't mean that I can't make music or whatever. Because again, you grow up, everyone's in bands, it's all dudes. Yeah. And then you're just like, oh, I'm just not really belonging here. Should I even be doing this? But then you just keep doing it because you just want to do it for yourself. But then to have the people who influence you to do it, be into it, you're like, okay, this is like a dream world we live in. Or like, again, just doing things. I work with artists. I work at a record label, and I have a lot of friends who are artists, and I'm always like, you just have to do it intentionally with like pure intentions and not be caught up in the fame or even that sort of acknowledgement. Just if they don't give it to you, I used to send demos to Paul tracks all the time. It's like, it took her 10 years for this to happen, but it's like, it's worth the time and patience and being true to yourself or whatever. And
I think they've mentioned it too, and it sounds kind of selfish, but you kind of have to create for yourself.
Yeah,
you really do.
Yeah,
and
it would be so ingenuine to create it for something, and then you hear that in certain people's music who are capable of creating anything. A lot of musicians who can play anything end up just making music that is for what's trending right now.
Right.
And they're like, oh, this will get me a show. This will get me signed to a label or whatever. And it's like,
this will go viral on TikTok.
Exactly. And it works for some people, but then there's no true meaning to it. And life is all about just doing meaningful things, no matter how small or big they are. It's like you determine your version of success. Like to me, my version of success was just, getting the vibe with people who I feel good with to vibe with or whatever. And that's what I've been able to do. And I'm like content in that. I don't need my music to be super making money or doing something like that. Like I just need it to just be something that helps create conversation or inspires people, or like I get to just, go see Animal Collective for free and get paid for it or whatever,
For sure.
And I think by the time this comes out, it would have already happened, but you're opening for Actress too. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, on Wednesday. Yeah, I'm super excited about that. Yeah, just like, I got to open for Beach House at the Greek Theater like a couple years ago.
Amazing.
And that kind of started this trend of opening for like indie bands, or just being oh wow, I can open for a band that has nothing to do with my music, but it still inspires me. And I have this like history with this band in my own, my own life or whatever, just because I love Beach House. And yeah, just being able to do that helped me feel like, oh, I can do all these other shows, like opening for someone like Actress or Code 9 last year or something like that. Like that is exciting to me because it's having that exchange of sound or like community. Like we live in such an internet age, and I just miss, like, you know, Animal Collective came up in that New York City scene with Black Dice and Gang Gang Dance, and they all had each other, and they were like really influencing the music ecosystem in a positive, interesting way. And how do we continue doing that and also stay in conversation with the people who inspired us and hopefully then pass it on or whatever, you know, like that's kind of the goal, is to have something that's beyond just putting something on the internet or whatever. Yeah. But I love the internet. I mean, that's how I do all my collaborations and stuff like that, but still.
Yeah.
Wow. Inspiring. Yeah. I feel like too, it's such a testament to that idea of like the small, meaningful, intentional thing of like, it's like you're obviously like an Animal Collective super fan. Your music is pretty different, you know?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
But they both recognize the value in it, and it seems like a lot of their fans at their shows were really into it too. So yeah, really cool.
Yeah, things can be different, but they are inspired by the same intentionality or whatever. And that's the zone we live in now with music, is genreless.
Right.
And it's a hybrid of things. And that's an exciting place to be in, you know?
Any other fun stories from opening with them, or any fun interactions that you'd be willing to share? Totally fine if not.
I mean, I loved going to Big Sur and having that moment. And yeah, I feel like, again, I try to be really respectful of people's time and energy.
Yeah.
So it's not like I hung hard or anything, but it was funny because both Dave's birthday was the Big Sur show, and then the first show I played with Panda Bear in LA was his birthday.
Wow.
So I got to be there for both of their birthdays, which was really cool.
Right on.
Meet
That's
Abby for the first time and hang with her. She's really nice. And yeah, just to be in that zone was like all I needed. I didn't need to like be in deep hang mode, but I just like being in that environment and getting to just like be friends, and just, I feel like that's helped now. And I still keep in touch with both of them on like social media and send them my music and stuff like that. So
same as you did years ago.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how it started, with like literally with Panda Bear. I met him at Desert Days, and then I friended him on his like real Twitter account and just messaged him my album. And I was like, it was the pandemic, and I was like, if you ever want to do anything, I loved your drumming when you played the Desert Days. Like his drumming was insane. I was like, send me some drum tracks, like if you're ever into it. And then he sent them to me like right away.
Really?
And then we just started working on it. And then it was like such a crazy situation where I was like, I need to like actually make this song happen. Cause like I said, it takes me like a year or two to do anything in terms of collaborations with people or to do things for the most part, unless it's like something that I get really focused on. And that was like something that I was able to do. And I felt really nice and it like helped me stay sane during the pandemic too. Just waking up early before work and working on the song. And I don't know, just like being like pen pals with Panda Bear, just passing the song back and forth and having little chats and stuff like that. So it was really good. Like
very tight.
I couldn't believe that. And it was just timing, it was just like the pandemic timing. And but then now he's doing all these cool collaborations and featuring on people's songs. And
totally all over the place.
I feel like he just really likes to work, and he's like one of those people who just wants to work on music all the time.
I think Dave too.
I mean, they both told me like Dave like works on music like every day. You know what I mean? Like it's just a practice. And for me, I can't really work on music that long. Like I'll work on music for like 30 minutes or an hour. Like it's like I get pained at some point. I'm just like, oh, this is too much. So, it's all different practices. But again, you can be any type of artist or any type of musician. And it doesn't matter how you're doing it, how much you're doing it. It's as long as you're intentional about it or whatever. So
now you're doing it.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, speaking of being respectful of people's time, we've been going a while. So we can definitely wrap up. One final question, just in the algorithm age, we love to ask people we talk to, like, is there one or two musicians that maybe are not super big, but that you're into right now that you want to put us on to, or any music that is catching your ear?
Let me look.
And no sweat if not putting you on the spot here.
No, I mean, I love talking about music. I feel like I always like bring up the same people, so I want to see if there's anyone else. But I mean, I will say my favorite producer is DJ Haram. I don't know if you guys have heard.
I've heard
of her.
Yeah.
She's this amazing experimental electronic producer. She has this duo with More Mother called 700 Bliss that I really love. So
More Mother rings a bell.
Yeah, More Mother's a legendary artist. Like she releases her own music. She's just putting out an album on Anti right now. She's like prolific artist. And yeah, they have this duo together. But DJ Haram is just an amazing producer and someone who, when I first heard her music, because she's Middle Eastern and queer, and I was like, oh, this is like years ago, 10 years ago, 12 years ago. I was like, wow, there's someone else doing weirdo experimental electronic music who's also Middle Eastern and incorporating some of those sounds into her music, but in a completely different way than me. And it just felt really cool to hear something like that. But yeah, I really like her. And this isn't obscure, but I'm obsessed with that ML Book album.
Oh, yeah.
Like Insane Sun Tub or whatever.
We put that on our like year end of last year.
Yeah, I can't stop listening to it. It's crazy.
These Danes are onto something.
They're really like on a roll or whatever. But yeah, I just love the production on that record and just those melodies. I'm obsessed with a good melody. But yeah, I mean, LA scene is so good. There's so many great artists. Can't think of their names right now, but there's so many great ones.
Have you checked out Astrid's Son? She's like a collaborator.
I like that record too.
Yeah, very cool.
Good.
Right on. Well, anything you want to let people know about?
No, we just have that song.
Shout out your Dub Lab show. And,
yeah.
Have that next week,
and the records and all that.
Yeah. I have. I'm just been self-releasing singles just for fun. Yeah. Just because I feel like for my next album, I want to work with live musicians. So I want to like kind of take my samples and have people reinterpret them in a new way. So I'm kind of waiting to get some sort of budget or money to do that. So I've just been releasing these songs myself. And it's been like a really fun experience. It's just like, not being beholden to a certain type of way of releasing music and experimenting and seeing how it happens. Because I love the process of releasing music. I'm obsessed with like the best way to release music just because I work at a record label. So I have that knowledge and it's been fun exploring that.
Yeah. What label do you work at?
I work at Ninja Tune.
Oh, sweet.
So I do the A&R for one of our sub labels, Big Data.
Okay.
So it's like a smaller label, but I get to sign smaller acts and more in tune with what I'm into.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Right on. Well, yeah, we can wrap it up there. Okay. Maral, thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Very fun. Always down to talk animal bud.
Yeah. Sweet. Thanks a lot for listening. Thanks so much to Maral for joining us. Be sure to check out her records, new song Hope's Return. And yeah, if you're in LA, she's playing every now and again. And definitely worth catching live. If you're enjoying this show, it really helps if you shoot us a quick review, quick rating on whatever format you listen on.
Send us your questions. We love a good question for a mailbag. bonefishpod@gmail or DM us at bonefishpod on Instagram.
Shout out to our patrons, the Bonafide Bonefish Brigade. If you want to join, head on over to patreon.com/bonefishpod. It's $5 a month, which comes down to about 16 cents a day to help support independent podcast creation and discussion about cool music and one of our favorite bands. And of course, for our exclusive eps, including recently we did Cows on Hourglass Pond, and then we have our deep dive on Merriweather Post Pavilion where we go through like samples, early live versions. That's all up on the Patreon. That's patreon.com/bonefishpod. That's all we got for today. So we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bonefish.